Yeah, so the one that caught my eye recently was the Cannes Lions announcement. And so, for everyone that doesn't know, Cannes Lions is basically an international festival of creativity, is what they call it, but it's like the biggest award show for creativity and all that kind of stuff. And they are introducing an AI craft subcategory across design, digital craft, film craft, industry craft, and creative data. So it's like quite a subcategory inside of a bunch of these categories that all seem, you know, very relevant for what AI could kind of transform or do. And I think the most interesting part of what they said to me was that the rule was that the work must be something that couldn't exist without AI. And so for me, that like really hits on this idea that like we're moving into a much more progressive world when it comes to AI, and how even these highly creative sort of people and sort of genres that are out there are sort of starting to segment it out and say that like, hey, there is a category that's related to AI in this way that's almost extreme AI. And I
Mhm.
think that like I wouldn't have thought that this would happen so quickly.
Mm.
Because of course you can use AI, and they probably do for all the rest of it, but it's not made with AI
Right.
and with this whole idea that it couldn't have been possible without AI. So I find that super cool because a lot of the work tasks that I see as well, the ones that are awesome right now are the ones that feel like it wouldn't be possible without AI.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting thing to talk about in the context of human craft versus like AI, right? Like we're seeing that battle play out in a variety of forms, right? In
Yeah.
movies, right, where you have a huge backlash against any film using AI in a way that kind of takes away from like human art, right? We saw Project Hail Mary do huge numbers, right? And like one of the things I think was a huge reason for that is how much of the marketing revolved around the director and the cinematographers talking about how they built out the actual worlds and how they built out the actual shots for the film, right? And showed that like there was no AI involved. It was all just like human creativity. And I think that, people really want to see that, the human imagination. And then we've also seen, with like commercials, right? There was like huge backlash with Coca-Cola and McDonald's using AI for their commercials during the holidays. And we've seen like a turn towards like animation and claymation, right? Like Barber did their partnership with Wallace and Gromit. So I feel like there is this like bifurcation happening between like the brands that want to be associated with like luxury and handcraft, human made things, and then companies where you can have, AI and AI slop, be a thing and it just doesn't matter as much. Now, where it's interesting is, Cannes is like the biggest creativity, festival out there. Some of us know it for like what it does for the movies each year, but they also have this, other side where it's like they're giving out awards for like the most creative, XYZ, right? And so I like that they are separating it out between like this only the human made versus there's the AI stuff as well. I think it would have pissed off a lot more people if they had allowed AI to be entered into like the human craft, because then it just doesn't seem fair. But it does make me question what and like how many are going to be entered into like the AI side, and who's going to be like the first to like actively say, yes, we did this with AI, and like, say it loud and say it proud, right? Because there's so much backlash happening to the companies that are using AI in a way that people feel is not good. But yeah, would love to know what you think about that in terms of like, obviously we both work in tech, we both use AI.
I think it's just going to get separated out to start, at least the extreme cases of it, and so
Mhm.
that people can actually submit in these categories and we can see what AI can do. So I think in general, like I said it a little bit earlier, but like we're going in one direction.
Mhm.
How do we get good with that? There's going to be a bunch of transitions along the way and rules, I guess. But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, if AI can do it and the humans accept it or like it, great. And if we don't, then that's on us to like do
Mhm.
something, say something, try to change those rules. So I think we're just in a murky place where if AI was like this thing and all of a sudden it's here and we're good
Mhm.
and it's going to slowly progress and get better, I think it's fine to think of it as making it restrictive or whatever. But the rules keep changing
Yeah.
because it kind of keeps getting different and better. And it's definitely gotten better.
Yeah.
And so, what do you do if
Mhm.
you're going to try to limit it or restrict it or not give people a place to express themselves with AI? That's really what this is to me. It's like if there's an AI craft subcategory, okay, they're really just trying to help people express themselves with
Mhm.
AI. Isn't that what it boils down to? And that's a new tool for self expression.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why yeah, I think the right decision was to separate it so that way it's competing like versus like, right? It's like you have the human made stuff
Yeah.
and then you have the AI stuff.
Yeah.
Um I do like that part of the focus here is you have to really denote where you've used it. Kind of the way it has been now, it's like people have just been quietly using it and not wanting to say anything and hoping that nobody discovers it. Um, but one thing that's also very interesting is somebody else posted this week on Twitter. I don't know if you saw, but that they've been running most of the articles that have been put out on Twitter, and about 71% of them have been written by AI. Um, and part of me is like, wow, like, but are people actually reading them, you know? Because I think there's a difference between like, okay, you're gonna get a book published with like, one of the 4 majors, and you don't want AI to be used there. But if it's just like an article on Twitter, does it really matter if it is AI, right? And then we're seeing that with, Spotify also having like AI artists and like YouTube also having, AI podcasts, right? Like one of the rising categories right now are AI podcasts. You know and it's like on the one hand it's like whoa, like people want to watch like an AI like podcast or like listen to it, like what does that even mean, but on the flip side it's like, well, if you are a human creator, here's how you can also separate yourself, right? Like here's how you can, build out something that like makes it easier for you to create what you want to create. um and that's like a thing where it's like, if we do want to say that AI is a tool, then you have to let people use it as a tool and then like see what comes from it. I think like the elite institutions, right? Like we've talked about this here where, there was a movie critic that used AI to write his movie review, and now he's been like ousted, and it's like, okay, those companies, those institutions are allowed to do that to keep the integrity of, the art that they're putting out. But then other ones are going to start accepting AI as in some way or another, and I think it's up to, the companies and the institutions to decide that. But it should be more of a human or like a social norm and not like regulations that get imposed. So we'll see. So that's happening in June. So I'll try to give an update here about like what happens with those categories and like who wins. And kind of I didn't see much backlash to this, which is surprising. But I wonder if it's kind of just going under the radar, and then once it actually happens in June, whether people are gonna have that backlash.
I mean, the lessons on this one, they're going to be a little skewed towards what I think a marketer and what I think about marketing. But and this is going to be a weird lesson, but it's like you take the users or the people, your audience. In this case, it's this sort of festival's audience, let's say, and some version of the audience, in this case, it's some of the creators, want to do something crazy. And you go figure out how to service those people because that minority might be either vocal or growing. And usually the funny thing about minorities of things in general, when you look at like percentage wise across something, they usually tend to grow. And so I think that's really interesting what they're doing and a solution they have to that kind of problem. So I would say if you're a marketer and especially with AI, there's going to be some people that are crazy with whatever you're marketing when it comes to your audience and the AI. And so how do you find a way to get those crazy people to do it in a good corner until it's maybe not a corner or until you can figure out how to get more people kind of thinking like that if that's a good thing. If it's not a good thing, I mean, you'll find out pretty quickly.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think that the marketing lesson for me is to figure out like where it's okay to use AI and where it's not, right? Like, we're seeing the rise in ads like on Instagram that, tell you below, like, this was photographed by this person, all this makeup, there was no AI used. Figure out like where your brand stands on that. Like, is our audience okay with us using AI or not? And then what aspects of AI they're okay with, right? And then also, if you are going to use AI, like, do try some way to like elevate it. I would assume, especially at the level of cans, that they are going to try to get like really creative with it and not just like half-ass it.
Yeah,
We've seen, yeah, like we've seen a lot of just like really shitty AI art. So like that like matches everything else that's like happening out there. And that's where it's like people are, I feel, are right to turn against that, because it's like, well, if you're just gonna act like every other brand, like why would I buy you versus the other brands, you know?
that's right.
So kind of figure out like how to elevate it for your brand and make it make sense for what you're doing, and not just use AI just to use it. Um, but yeah, I'll be interested to see like if it even compares to like human art, you know? Um,
Exactly. Yeah, that's yeah, it's gonna be a really interesting new category.
yeah. Okay. So